Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be using the quadratic formula to solve for x in a quadratic equation. This is the quadratic formula. I'm going to present the quadratic formula to you first. And this formula that I've written in white, that is the quadratic formula. It says x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which is called the determinant. Actually, it's called a discriminant. My bad. And all of that must be divided by 2a. Now, the given equation is x squared minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. And you are asked to find the x values that work in this equation. The first thing that you must do as a student is to, number one, list a equals whatever it is, b equals whatever it is, and list c equals whatever it is. If you don't know those, then you won't be able to use the quadratic formula, because the quadratic formula takes a, it takes b, and it takes c in various configurations in order to find x. So let's go ahead and find a. A is the coefficient of the square term, okay? And in this case, this is a square term, and the number before x squared is an invisible 1. Therefore, a is 1. The number before the linear term, this is the linear term. X is being raised to the first power, so it's linear. The number before the linear term is negative 6. So therefore, b is negative 6. And of course, c is the constant term, which is the number by itself. This is a constant term, and so c is 3. Now that we have found all three variables from the equation, this given equation, what we'll do now is insert the values in the quadratic formula. Let's go ahead and rewrite the quadratic formula one more time. If you notice, I am repeating the quadratic formula from memory, and I would advise you to do the same. X is what we want to find, and it's equal to the negative of whatever b is. So if b is negative, it would be the negative of a negative, plus or minus, because there are two answers when you take the square root, so we have to put plus or minus, the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which we call the discriminant. All of that you learn in Algebra 2, all over 2a. Let's go ahead and make our substitutions. X equals the negative, you write that sign, and b is negative 6, you write that again. So we end up with the negative of negative 6, which we'll come to in the next line, plus or minus the square root of b squared, b is negative 6 squared, minus 4 times, what is a? A is 1 times what is c is 3, okay? All of this must be over 2 times whatever a is, which is 1, okay? So we end up with x is equal to, and we now proceed to solve. Two negatives facing each other become a positive. So we end up with positive 6 plus or minus. And why do we do plus or minus? Because taking the square root produces two answers, a negative square root and a positive square root. Now we are going to go inside and under the square root symbol. Negative 6 squared is the same thing as negative 6 times negative 6, which is positive 36. And then we work out what this gives us. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 3 gives negative 12. See? All of that must be over 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Our next move, we're going to say x is equal to positive 6 plus or minus, and then we work out what is under the square root symbol. We have 36 minus 12, that is 24. All of that is over 2. And then we continue. We say that we now simplify the radical. So we are going to say positive 6 plus or minus, and 24 is not a perfect square, but we can break it up into two numbers, one of which is a perfect square. We try to find the largest perfect square that can go into 24, and that largest perfect square works out to be, let me see, 4. 6's make 24. We check that perfect square and it goes into 24. Let's check 9. 9 doesn't work. 16 doesn't work. And we stop there. So we're going to say 4 times 6, okay? And we work it out. The question said we were to simplify radical. So we end up with positive 6 plus or minus, and the square root of 4 right here is 2 radical 6 all over 2. And we can try to simplify further by separating the tops, by writing it like this. X is equal to 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 radical 6 over 2. And of course, we do our final simplification. 6 divided by 2 gives 3, and positive, and this cancels, leaving with us with 3 plus or minus radical 6. And that is our final answer. When you get great at this, some of the steps you can actually do in your head and go a bit faster. But as I always say, shortcuts are for experts. When you become an expert, you can take shortcuts. For now, you're learning, you're developing your algebra skills. So work the problem through thoroughly. And as you get better, then you can improvise. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.